Hi, Scott here. Hope you're well. Okay, so the market conditions are a little bit tricky at the moment, which means we have to be extra careful. We don't want to be taking too many risks, and we need to be looking for those really perfect looking setups. So it's even more important now than ever to really go for the best looking setups, which is why I try and give you some education during these videos of what, to me, looks like a really good setup, and really the reasons to disqualify a setup and make it seem. So just to show you, so what looks from the outside to be a nice setup, when you dig deeper, it's not looking so good. So that's the kind of thing we're trying to identify so we can avoid those trades. There's a few things to look at today, so let me get into that. Okie dokie. Just clear the screen a bit. Right. What do we have? Not this one. We're going to this one. And Aussie Kiwi. Let's just zoom out a bit. What's going on here? A bit busy. Okay, we go to the higher time frames first, and we'll look at Aussie Kiwi. What is that giving us? Okay, let's zoom in. So we've got monthly recent uptrend, quite strong, weekly showing the same, but with a nice little pullback here, which is heading towards the weekly 50. And then the daily has been a very strong uptrend and is now broken down. So let's zoom into the daily as well. So always like to look at my MACD and RSI just to get a confirmation that we're looking at a very overbought conditions here. So the RSI is very overbought here, a little bit 3 weeks ago now, and since then it's dropped off dramatically, and it's now getting towards the oversold with a bounce. So is that going to continue down, or is it going to keep, or is the trend going to resume? Let's look at the weekly, see if that gives us anything. MACD on the weekly, yeah, not really. Breaking down below the weekly 20, RSI has dropped down to halfway, so it's kind of happy. That's the bull trend could continue here. What other indicators do we have? We go back to the daily. Right. So we've had this trend line here, well and truly broken. Do we have any Elliott waves, any Elliott wave pattern here? So hard to say exactly, because we've got what could be a top and then a wave 1 and a little wave 2 and a big wave 3, which doesn't really sound right. Usually wave 3 is the biggest. So I would call this one a wave 1, and we'll call this a double top, because the highs of these wicks kind of line up with the open and closed candles, the bodies of these candles here. So I call that double top, a wave 1, a wave 2, and I showed you yesterday, if you do a full extension, then we have a 1.272 extension so far on our wave 3. Wave 4 pullback, and we could be looking at a wave 5 down. Now, ideally, this would come back and retest the day 20, day 50 before going back down. But if we do a fib on this wave 3, it starts here, one starts here, and go down to the lows. The 382, which is often where it retraces to as a minimum, is almost touched, not quite. So maybe what we have is this level is a very strong level. Anything obvious there? It's a bit of a zone, just below it there, just above it there. All right, it lines up with it here perfectly. And you can go back and check how strong you think this level is. I guess it'd be pretty strong because it's rejected quite nicely, and we've gone down. So that's what the higher time frames are giving us. What is the lower time frames and the hourly chart giving us? Now, this is an interesting chart because we had this big spike up and back down again. This actually was the close of trading yesterday, and then this is the open of the trading today, which is why we got big 1 hour candles, and also comes across in our daily chart as well. Let's investigate that further. If we go back to the 5 minutes, we can see these massive candles. Now, if we actually make this a 1 minute, which is as fine detail as I can go on my charting, we can see within 1 minute we had that massive spike up and a massive spike down. And the daily starts on there. We can tell by the daily pivots where the day starts. So the day closed on that minute candle and started on this minute candle. So that kind of looks a bit yucky and messed up the charting a little bit. But what that means is we can kind of ignore those candles. So what are we looking at then? If we have pulled back enough, and this is never going to go, pull back all the way to the daily 15, day 20, which we can see on my 1 hour chart here. That's the green line here is the daily 50, the red line is the day 20. It doesn't want to pull back that far. We do have a great deceleration pattern here. And this is what we call an ACB, Advanced Continuation Breakout. So we have, it's called a continuation because the run is down. This is a small pullback, 382 pullback, and measured it on the daily. And then that can continue down. So it broke the 1 hour 50. Did give a long yesterday. I noted this could be a setup for yesterday. So if you got that, nice one. We would have got a 1% or so up to the 4 hour 50. And now it's hit the 4 hour 50. Again, we'll ignore these candles here. A bit messy. Then it's kind of stalled at the 4 hour 50. Stalled here and stalled here. And we have a nice little wedge pattern. Wedge pattern is a good deceleration. Either be a wedge or a triangle, possibly if it was going up here and down here. We could have a triangle pattern deceleration, which means that it could be ready to go back short again. So what do we look for? Well, we look for a confirmation that the 4 hours been rejected and a 5 minute 50 break on a lower time frame, which is why I have the 5 minute up here. So if we get a break of the 5 minute 50, this red line. So did have a break down here. We've got this trend line, which is not perfect. You could probably adjust it to take into account the lower time frame as well. Maybe even something like that. Take it down parallel from here to here. So we can do, once we get a clear rejection of the 4 hour 50, we could jump on the 5 minute 50 break. So this, you need to have confirmation that you are happy with this resistance line here. 4 hour 50, is that holding strong so far? And it hasn't broken the 5 minute recently. It did back here on very low volume, which would not be a good time to enter the trade. But if it enters the 5 minute, passes the 5 minute 50 here, gives an entry, that could be an entry for a short trade. And I'll do it on the 1 hour, so it's a bit bigger. And then, so you're also trading through this trend line. And you'll be trading through the 1 hour 50. So really, it's a lower strike rate. You want to make sure you get 2% down to your lows, your recent lows here. And the stop just up here. So we did a break in the next while. Not quite sure when you'll see this video, but that could be an entry. But everything against this, everything is against this trade going short. Everything at the moment is bullish. We have this trend change. We've got on the 1 hour, we have higher highs, higher lows. We have a 1 hour 50 sloping upwards. We have nothing to suggest that this is going to go short. So we need to be very confident about this level here, this 4-hour 50, and even, just deleted that, can I undelete it? Reopen, close that. Phew. Go back to the daily. Comes up. Well, I showed you the daily before. We need to be very confident that the level that's been rejected, which is actually this line here, is very strong. And then relents on the 5-minute 50 break. So it's a low strike rate, but it's a great way to get onto a trend as it continues. We've had a run down, had a pullback. We confirm this level here is a really major level. That'll explain why it stopped here. I didn't pull back completely to 382 or pull back to the daily 2050 line. So that'll give us an AC bid. So by the time you see this, it probably would have passed. It may not, it may just mess around here a little bit and then give another entry. But educational stuff there. Okay, let's get into some other stuff. Credit Suisse. Okay, what do we have? Let's get all this stuff off. So Credit Suisse, what we have here is a downtrend, obviously, and it's come back to meet the daily 50 with a few doji candles. This could be a nice entry for swing trade short. It hasn't broken down yet. I'll go to the 1 hour. And we can see on the 1 hour that we do have kind of triple top here. Now we've got a lower high. Do we have a lower low yet to confirm it? Not really. It's a bit messy. This low to this low maybe. Not really that clear. But you could jump on a swing trade on the break of this trend line, on a close below this trend line, which is kind of closed here. Did close here and then went straight back again. So you could even have entered here, breaking the 1 hour 50 on the trend line. Or if you get another breakdown here, enter here somewhere, and that will give a entry around here. Stop behind the highs, and then take this down to the lows. It should be down here somewhere. My picture is a bit slow today. So this is over 2% there, and you might even decide to stop clip. You probably don't need to you probably clip some of those wicks off, get a better risk reward risk, and once you've got confirmation, nice. I imagine when this breaks down, it'll be quite a strong candle. You probably won't get until down here somewhere, and that will be a nice entry point. You can probably adjust this trend line as well. So that's an SBO, that's a swing trade. Otherwise, you can wait for it to pull down, pull back to the 1 hour 50, and then that would probably then be an IBOC because the 4 hour 50 here is not far behind. So there's a couple of opportunities there, possibly. You okay? Okay, as you're okay, we've been banging up against this level here, kind of deceleration. So is this a time for it to reverse now? Maybe. This is quite a strong level. We've gone back in time and checked that before. So we do have a pip snatcher on to go long. Would we take it? Okay, let's analyze. Let's zoom in a little bit better proportioned. Right. So would we go long here? Probably not. Probably wouldn't want to trade into this major level. We'd probably wait for some kind of reversal pattern and then trade short. But let's disqualify this pip snatcher long if we can. Firstly, the trend line is pretty good. It's actually coming down to test it now. 1 hour 50 is quite a long way back, so you'd need a very long spike and a pullback, and EuroCAD won't be for another 5 or 6 hours after this recording. So if it pulls back now, it wouldn't be a valid entry for me because it's not the high volume time for the EuroCAD position. So that's against it. Pulling back now will pull back too far, break this trend line, and it probably acts as resistance on the way back up. It needs to keep going along up here, another 5 or 6 hours, and then pull down. So it doesn't look very good. Do anything on the MACD? Oh yes, we've got a MACD divergence there. So we've got that high to that high is higher, and it's lower on the MACD. So that's a divergence. So that's indicating that we're going to get some action, some short action coming on. So trading back up to these highs, not advisable. I wouldn't want to do that one. Okay, US Swiss. This is what I mean about taking quality trades. With pip snatches, you really want to be careful and only take the best ones because you need a high strike rate with only a 1% reward risk. So here we have Euro Swiss. We break through this level here. It's been going up since. Bit of deceleration yesterday, but still looking strong. Well, still looking like an up day. Now what do we have here? So we have our high highs, looking quite nice. We've got a trend line which is respecting, apart from just now. We can probably even include that. If you include these wicks down here, you can include this. Again, the 1 hour 50 is a bit far behind. And again, Euro Swiss might be for another 5 or 6 hours before the volume comes in. So it's not looking great in that regard. If it does come down there, it doesn't count. If it stays up here, then comes back down. But if 1 hour 50 catches up, it could be okay. But we do see an acceleration in the trend. Right? We've got a trend kind of like this. But a few ways you could do it. It's not a very clean trend, but we have the trend for 1 hour 50 going like this. Now it's accelerating. I mentioned this before. If it's accelerating, it's usually the end of a run. MACD, we have a very, it's equal actually, equal highs and a much higher high. So that disqualifies it for me straight away. MACD divergence there. So again, that wouldn't be a good pip snatcher for me. I was caution against that one. Euro dollar, what does that give us? Now this one is interesting because we have this strong trend line. It seems to go back forever. When does it go back to? Oh, it's not that much actually. Well, March, over 6 months. And it's finally closed above it. So that indicates that we're going to get some bullish pressure now perhaps. We've broken the daily 50 and we've broken this very strong trend line with a close above it. On the hourly, we have, it doesn't look very pretty to me. We have a final break of this trend line, which I did adjust for the 1 hour time frame. Not sure where it will go. Anywhere around there. Broken that cleanly, and then it just took off. So lots of people seem to jump on this trade last night for me, and traded very high, and since then it's just been going sideways. But that looks like an okay pip snatcher. We got the trend line, which is behind. 1 hour 50 is about pretty close. That can come back in 5 or 6 hours perhaps. Retest the daily 50, this green line. Retest the 1 hour 50. Retest the trend line. Take it higher for a quick 1%. Anything else in there? CBO, I imagine this 450 is too far back. Let's have a look. We'll do a CBO in here. Let's try from here first. But the 4 hour break right back down here. So we do this. Well, doesn't look too bad, does it? Broken the 1 hour 50 already. We exclude that wick. Strong wick there. 4 hour 50 just behind the 618. No, it doesn't really qualify for CBO. And if you took it from back here, that doesn't really count. That wouldn't work anyway. Okay, so CBO's off the cards. quick pitch snatcher, best looking one we've seen so far, I suggest. Okay. Okay, again, this strong resistance level. Got hit again yesterday, touched, stopped there. So they're looking like a strong, the trend will continue, or is that going to reverse on that? Look at the lower time frame, see what that gives us. Start without the MACD. MACD is the kind of final look. So, pound CAD, we've got an uptrend, trend line. So yes, so the pitch snatcher is an option. Trend line looks okay, 1 hour 50 looks okay. Again, every 5 or 6 hours before that could set up. So it could easily go along here and then just come down and retest these two. Everything looks good there so far. We got a 1% for all the highs, enter around the pivot, stops below the R1. Doesn't MACD spoil everything? Well, the MACD, yeah, it's higher, right? It's not divergent. It's not, maybe not as high as that high, but still okay. Let's get rid of this noise. So it's still a valid trade. It's been in the RSI. The RSI is here somewhere. Where is it? Okay. So now we want, before the entry, I like to see this MACD line not being broken. So we do a trend line on the price action, we do a trend line on the MACD as well. And that seems to be okay. Need to recheck it, of course, entry, because 5 or 6 hours that may look different. That looks okay. So pound CAD looks okay for a pitch snatcher long, except we're trading into this level. This has been holding pretty strong. So I probably wouldn't do it just for that reason. But as a pitch snatcher, it looks okay. Pound Swiss, probably not too dissimilar to the pound CAD. So we're actually breaking away from this level finally. The daily 50 is the level here. Maybe not. Maybe you could just say that this wick. Go back and check your level. Doesn't seem to be anything major there. Just misses this wick. Yeah, that looks okay. And I imagine the same things will apply as the pound CAD. So we've got strong trend line. Strong, got 1, 2, 3 touches. Reasonable trend line. 1 hour 50. Moving up closely with it, which is good. We've got an entry around the pivot. 1% profit just before the highs. The stop just below the R1. And that could be a nice little pitch snatcher too. Quickly check the no MACD divergence. Nice bit higher. We can do trend lines in here as well. That looks good. And the RSI okay as well. So that could be a nice little pitch snatcher for later on. Dollar CAD. Okay, so we've hit this on the daily. We've had this strong level, it's been rejected many times. We have the divergence. See that high there is much lower than that one. And if you look at that, it lines up with the chart. This high and this high, this is higher, higher, this is going much lower. So there's MACD divergence, indicating we're going to get some kind of bearish price action, monthly and weekly. Probably overbought on the weekly. Yeah, overbought on the weekly, so I need some kind of pullback. And was overbought here on the daily, right back here, and since it's been higher, and it's working off its overboughtness down to the halfway line. So it could continue. But bearish day yesterday. We'll see what the lower time frames give us. It looks like it could be going bearish today. Right, the 1 hour chart. So what do we have? Going sideways. Now we have a lower high. and double top in a downtrend is bearish. That indicates that we broke this level, came back, tested it, broke again, bounced off it, tested again, bounced off it. Therefore, that's a very strong level in the downtrend. So we could have a couple of things on here. The pip snatcher looks pretty good. Pip snatcher short. Entry on the pivot, stop behind the R1, and take profit just below these lows, just before these lows. This is a reversal, right? It's a pullback play towards the daily 50, so you wouldn't want to take it any further than that. In theory, you could take it further and get almost 4% for hyper trade, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's on a reversal. It can reverse at any time. Okay, do we have any MACD on these lows? Oh, there's a huge MACD there, MACD divergence. See this low to this low, slightly lower. Here you've got a much higher lows. So that suggests it can reverse at any time. And it's reversing now. Will it come back down to take profit? I wouldn't want to risk it. That MACD divergence for me takes all trades short off the table. Could easily come back here and then just continue its longer term trend up. Dollar Swiss, what does that give us? Again, rejecting this line, this level. Trading a bearish day yesterday. Maybe going to continue down. It's the daily 20. Bit of caution, trading through the daily 20. And there's a MACD divergence there as well. If you can see that, just like on dollar CAD we just had. And we've got a very similar thing here. We do have potentially a, let's go back to this. So the pip snatcher looks possible. Trend line, hourly 50. The 4A is just here as well before I stop, which is nice. That all looks good. We've also got this trend line here, which I tried to put in a trend line. It wasn't very easy. It's not that clear, but there's a trend line somewhere around there. So we could be looking at a short trade. We've broken that trend line, possibly a pullback for the pip snatcher short. That could be possible. Right, what do we have? Good old MACD. What does that give us? We are getting this low, lower low, this low, higher low. MACD divergence. So I don't like that. For me, that's a bit risky. We're in a pullback anyway. We'll go back to the daily, remind ourselves where we're at. So we've had a run up, not a particularly strong run, but nevertheless, for the last few weeks, we've been running up for a couple of months now or more. And that's been a bit choppy. That could well continue. Are we overbought on the weekly? Not really. Not really. Daily? Not really. So this trend could easily continue long again, and this MACD is suggesting that the hourly time frame could, if it pulls back now, that negates this this short trade for me. If it should come down lower, and then before it pulls back, then maybe this MACD will come down lower, pull back, in which case the trade is still on. See how that pans out. The only other one I've got, which may set up for later on, is Euro Aussie. And we have here Euro Aussie. We've got a strong uptrend, rejecting this trend line, which goes back away. And week, monthly, we can see that. Rejects that. It's time for pretty short. We look at the RSI, see that it was very overbought here and here. And now it's pulling back a little bit. There's still room for it to pull back further. On the weekly, The MACD is, well, the RSI is almost overbought. Almost. This trend line seems to be holding quite strong. So where are we going next? Are we going to reject that and go short? Let's have a look. That's what we may have, and if we do, we have a triple top, kind of, because that's a higher high. And we're now getting a lower high, lower low. For me, too risky as a trade off as an IBO. I've already had a kind of IBO here, not very clean. I'd wait for a nice clean break of the 4-hour 50, this blue line, and pull back to 4-hour 50 and a nice trade short as a CBO. I should prove it a bit less, probably get a couple of percent down to the daily 20. That's one I may set up later. Okay. Right, there you go, a few things to look at. Nothing particularly exciting, but never get too excited about pip snatchers. I've disqualified quite a few of them, but there's a couple there which may be okay. So I hope you found it useful. I will catch up with you tomorrow. All the best in the markets. I'll see you then. Ciao.